The morning after the storm was too quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your chest, heavy, deliberate, almost sacred. Sarah Hale stood on the porch with Buddy's leash in her trembling hand, though the leash no longer held anything. The wind moved gently through the fields, carrying the scent of wet earth and lilacs, James's favorite flowers. She could still hear the echo of his last words, faint as the whisper of rain on the rooftop. "I'll come back. Just promise you'll wait." She had waited, through nights that never ended, through letters that stopped coming, through the folded flag handed to her by trembling hands. She had waited even after hope had become a ghost that haunted her every breath. And then he had come home. Not in the way she imagined, not in the way the world could understand. Now, in the soft, silver light of dawn, Sarah felt the truth stirring in the air around her, as if the line between life and death had thinned overnight. Buddy's paw prints led away from the porch toward the oak tree once more, and for the first time she noticed something glinting there beneath the roots, a third dog tag. She picked it up and froze, because it wasn't James's name engraved on it. It was hers. Her breath caught. The tag felt warm, pulsing faintly, like a heartbeat. And from somewhere behind her, where the sun was just beginning to rise, came a voice, soft and broken, a voice she'd buried a lifetime ago. "Sarah, it's time to come home."
Where truth meets imagination. Welcome to Facts and Fiction.
The world was painted in the soft gold of dawn, but Sarah's heart felt wrapped in shadows. She stood by the oak tree where Buddy's paw prints ended, her fingers trembling around the third dog tag, the one with her name engraved on its cold surface. For a moment she couldn't breathe. It was as if the earth itself had paused, waiting for her reaction. The name read simply, Sarah Hale, forever bound. The words felt carved not by man, but by fate itself. Buddy sat beside her, his amber eyes fixed on something unseen. His fur glistened with dew and his ears twitched at every faint sound. The chirping birds, the sighing wind, the creak of the branches. But when the wind shifted, carrying the faint scent of gunpowder and smoke, Buddy growled softly, low, protective, almost mournful. Sarah's knees weakened. "James?" she whispered, her voice breaking like brittle glass. No answer came, only the faint rustle of the oak leaves and a whisper that might have been the wind. But Buddy began to move, leading her down the old trail through the forest, the same one James used to walk when he returned home on leave, always smiling, always promising that one day they'd leave this small town behind. Now she followed the ghost of that memory, her boots sinking into wet earth. Each step stirred fragments of the past, laughter by the riverside, hands brushing, Buddy chasing sticks through the sunlight. But as the forest thickened, so did the silence. At the center of the woods stood the ruins of an old watchtower, a relic from a war long past. The same tower James had once described in his letters from overseas, but that was impossible. Sarah approached slowly. The air was colder here, heavy with memory. On the crumbling wall she saw faint words etched into the stone, words that hadn't been there before. "We return to those who wait." Her heart raced. James? Then she heard it, faint static, the same as before. It came from Buddy's collar. She bent down, trembling, and found the small transmitter that James had once attached to him, an old military communicator. It flickered weakly, then crackled to life. "Sarah." Her world stopped. It was his voice. Faint, echoed, but real. James, where are you? Please! Static drowned her plea, followed by a distant hum. Then the voice returned, softer now, almost sorrowful. You kept your promise. Now keep mine. The signal cut off. The forest fell silent again. Buddy turned, barking once, and started running deeper into the woods. Sarah followed, branches tearing at her sleeves, her breath fogging in the chill air. When she emerged into a clearing, she froze. Before her stood a figure in uniform, soaked in morning mist, his head bowed. James. He looked just as she remembered him, broad shoulders, tired eyes that still carried warmth. But he wasn't solid. The light passed through him like smoke. Sarah's heart shattered into 1,000 aching pieces. James, is it really you? He lifted his head, and when he smiled, tears filled his eyes. I told you I'd come home. She reached for him, but her hand passed through empty air. James looked down at Buddy, who had sat between them, tail wagging weakly, as if he'd been waiting for this reunion his whole life. He brought me home, Sarah, James said softly. He found you. I couldn't leave him behind. I couldn't leave you behind either. Her tears fell freely now. I waited, James. I never stopped. I know, he whispered. But the world I'm in isn't where love ends. I needed you to know that. I needed you to believe. Sarah clutched the dog tag in her hand. Why does it have my name? James looked away, his expression bittersweet. Because love doesn't stop at the grave. When your time comes, Buddy will lead you home too. The forest seemed to pulse with life, leaves shimmering with faint light, the air humming softly like the world itself was listening. But then James began to fade, his image flickering like the last embers of a fire. James, please don't go! He smiled faintly. I'll be waiting by the oak tree. Just promise me one thing. Her heart trembled. Anything! Keep living, Sarah. Don't wait in sorrow. Wait in love. And with that, he was gone, the mist folding around where he had stood. Buddy whined softly and pressed his head into Sarah's hand. She fell to her knees, clutching him, tears and rain mixing on her cheeks. The world felt quiet again. But now, it wasn't empty, because she finally understood. Buddy hadn't just brought home a ghost. He had brought her a promise.
Weeks passed, and the rhythm of life slowly returned to the small cottage. The grief didn't vanish, it never truly does, but it softened, turning into something gentler, like the echo of a song once sung. Sarah began tending to the garden again. She fixed the old fence, repaired the radio, and painted the porch in the same deep blue James had loved. Buddy was always by her side. Older now, moving slower, but his eyes still bright, as if he carried some eternal flame. One evening, as twilight brushed the sky in hues of violet and gold, Sarah sat with Buddy beneath the oak tree. She traced the engravings on the dog tags, 3 of them now, resting together like fragments of a single story. James's name, Buddy's name, and hers. She smiled faintly. We kept our promise, didn't we, boy? Buddy wagged his tail once and laid his head in her lap. The air felt peaceful, too peaceful. She felt a strange warmth on her skin, the same gentle pulse she'd felt when she first touched the tag with her name. The world around her shimmered faintly. The breeze carried whispers, soft, melodic, like a lullaby from another world. Then Buddy lifted his head and looked toward the horizon. The setting sun painted the sky in gold, and within that light, she saw him. James stood beneath the oak tree again, solid now, smiling. His uniform glowed faintly, and his hand was outstretched. Sarah's breath caught. "James," she said. "It's time, Sarah. You kept living, you kept loving. Now it's time to come home." Tears streamed down her face, not of sorrow, but peace. She looked down at Buddy. "You ready, boy?" Buddy gave a quiet bark, a sound that trembled with love and farewell. Sarah closed her eyes. The wind grew warmer. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. When the neighbors found the porch the next morning, Sarah was sitting peacefully beneath the oak tree, a faint smile on her face, her hand resting on Buddy's fur. The sunrise painted her in light. Buddy lay beside her, eyes closed, his tail curled near her hand, both of them still as if asleep. And there beside them, 3 dog tags gleamed in the morning sun. James Hale, Sarah Hale, Buddy, always home. From that day on, whenever the wind passed through the valley, it carried with it the faint sound of laughter, a woman's voice, a man's whisper, and the joyful bark of a dog that had finally finished his mission. Because love, as the soldier once said, doesn't end in death. It simply finds a new way home.